Ouchies Batreps, where the drama is always real, like a telenovela, but with guns. Okay, it's like any telenovela. It's round 2 of the Tanker's Treat tourney, and that 2-5 loss of the last game has me reconsidering the entire Royal Tiger list. In fact, I'm about to face another list, the Soviet Tankovy, with a gaggle of tanks that I had confided to Yank Yeager earlier that I was completely afraid of facing. The T-34-85 is really the only tank that I am absolutely mortified to face, and lo and behold, he's my next opponent. The mission is hasty attack and I'm defending. It really seems like the luck of my Italians is holding over with me with the Germans. I'm not quite an immobile battalion, but I am defending in nearly every mission so far. Getting forced to play the defensive on each one of these scenarios has so far highlighted a significant problem with the list. It's a lot of territory I have to defend, and I have very few men to actually spread it so thinly along it. Against the Soviet Tankovy, I have really got to be aware that once he starts getting side shots, they're probably going to be penetrating shots. He's got a lot of tanks. They're going to come over the border, and I'm going to be faced with overwhelming force in very localized areas if I'm not careful. So I spread myself out just as far as I can, just so that I can cover as much as I can, with the idea that I might be able to take the 2IC and route them to wherever the tanks seem to be heading. And just as I had presumed, he tries a denied flank, applying most of his units into the far right of the board, trying to swing through the city with the T-34-85s and singling out the 1IC that is guarding the eastern objective. Make no mistake, those T-34-85s are incredibly quick. The city doesn't do them any justice, but they haul right up to the objective, making it very clear that the 1IC is going to have issues real soon. Any potential hope of taking the objective away from him by some sort of fast maneuvering is shot all up as he put the Zis guns right in front of it. It looks like this is going to be a defensive battle from the beginning on. Bracing for the impact and not trying to be overwhelmed, I use the curvature of the forest and sink the 1IC around the corner so that he can hopefully single out some of the Tankovy. Meanwhile, the 2IC begins rushing up behind the church in an attempt to gain some cover from it and also put some shots downrange. This does not slow down the Tankovy at all as they begin charging through the open fields. Guns blazing, the 1IC begins returning fire as much as he can, but it doesn't seem to be enough. There's only so many shots he gets, especially at rate of fire 1, and there's a lot of tanks out there to be shooting at. It doesn't stop him though. He doesn't take any shots this turn because he can't hurt it. The 1IC begins pulling back even further, trying to again narrow down the amount of shots that he can get, and he manages to kill one of the T-34-85s at point blank range, but it doesn't stop the Soviets at all as it appears the entire Soviet contingent decides it's a good time to come say hello as he gets all his reserves on the third turn. The Soviets now outnumber the Germans quite a bit, with the ISU guns are capable of actually hurting the Tiger when it's under 16 inches range. I'm very aware of this, I'm very concerned. The 2IC begins moving out there to try to help the 1IC as he begins throttling back just as fast as he can as the Soviets begin encircling his position, crashing through the trees, trying to get any shot that they can that might be able to do some damage to him, and he begins ranging in. The T-34-85 has an AT of 12 against his side armor of 8. That is horrific in my sight, and he manages to get the one shot that counts and kills the German CO in the first shot. It is a horrific loss for Germany, as the objective is now being contested by the Russians. As you can see here on the west side of the board, even their IS-2s and their Soviet Tankovy, the rest of the Soviet Tankovy begins crashing down towards the infantry and the western objective. So if it's not the eastern objective, it's the western objective that's also going to be contended. The recently commissioned hero of the motherland doesn't live long to enjoy it as the 2IC gets sweet, sweet revenge by blowing the turret clean off in a fatal shot. It's worth noting in a memoir I read recently regarding a Soviet tank commander that the commander actually preferred the Shermans to the T-34 because the T-34 would explode, whereas the Sherman would just catch fire, burn his crew alive. As you can see, the Tiger tank is backing itself up through the woods as much as it can, trying to gain some distance from the Tankovy, but they catch up, bailing it once and then destroying it with a follow-up shot from both the back and the side. There's no place that they can hide. There's no place that they can go, and the poor Gert Panzer pioneers are desperately hammering the radio for assistance. Right now, the Soviets have this eastern objective, and they're going to have the western objective in a minute. The Germans, however, get their reinforcements as brave King Tiger comes in to save his fellow comrades, guns blazing at the Soviet Tankovy to try to contest the objective for one more turn. In a savage act of desperation, air support does range in and manages to kill one of the anti-tank guns crossing the open terrain. Time is precious for the Germans right now, with both objectives being quite near to contention, if not in contention, with every armor save being absolutely critical and every gunshot being absolutely to the line. And just as it happens, one of the reinforcement gets shot by the T-34-85 multiple times, but it only bails it. But that's critical, absolutely critical. Without any kind of contention of the objective, they're going to lose the game the next turn. The situation on the west side of the board has gotten incredibly dire, as the Gert Panzer pioneers have not received any of the reinforcements that they have needed since turn 3 on, and they are assaulted by the T-34-85s, and in the rout they lose nearly everything, down to 2 stands. They manage to make morale to stay, but they do not contend the objective. Nonetheless, the Germans send a lone Tiger II for the fatherland, as he would most certainly need it at this point, to go and take on the entire contingent of T-34-85 sent there and the IS-2s. It's pretty much him by himself, while the Tiger II that is contending the eastern objective does not remount. He stays bailed, leaving that poor Tiger to fend off the Soviet horde from those retreating infantry. He had a good list. He outplayed me. It was a 6-1 victory for the Soviets. I couldn't help, though. From the German side, things felt a little different.
Come on, bastard! Come on, you two! Oh, you want some of this?